Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to the Around the 412 Fantasy Football Show, where getting traded to Cincinnati would still be worse than living in Cleveland somehow. I know this from experience. Welcome to the Around the 412 Fantasy Football Show. I am Joe Frick, your host, along with the ball knowing, the dynasty darling, completely ruining our dynasty leagues 1 week at a time. The one, the only, Drew Hannes. Drew, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. How are you? Just hanging in there on this end.
You know,
Waivers.
I've had a really good X week for me, meaning like Twitter. I've had 2 hit tweets. I've had like 5 million impressions in the last week. So I'm looking forward to that paycheck, Elon. I got a college to provide for with my son. I'm already behind after him being alive for 8 months. So, any little change can help. So appreciate that. Survived the bye week with no injuries. So pretty jazzed about that for the Steelers. And fantasy football stuff's looking good. I'm in the top 100 for Fishbowl. All of my home leagues, I'm getting absolutely throttled, which is just wild. Awesome. But you win some, you lose some.
How are you doing in terms of playoffs? I know you're saying that you're being throttled. Like, are you looking like you're not going to make any of those?
I mean, it depends. Our auction league, I got annihilated by injury, so that's not looking promising. I have one league where I'm like 1-4. I have one league where I continuously pick the wrong player between Dak Prescott and Justin Fields every week. It's just like, and if I pick the other one, I would be 4-1. And it's just like, okay, that's cool. But yeah, we'll make it work. I'm not sweating it too bad. But them's the breaks. So, Drew, throw on the lab coat. Injuries weren't as bad, but still a lot of big things happening week 5. So talk to us about that a little bit and let the people know what you're seeing.
Yeah, I actually wish I had more to say about these injuries, but like these have been the most quiet injuries that we've had all year. A lot of I could speculate, but it would just be pure speculation at this point. Like Omari Hampton has an ankle injury or a foot injury. We have no idea what the degree is. In my opinion, I don't think it's good personally. I think that he has the potential to miss more than just the 4-week window with this IR stint, mainly because there was no hesitation with them putting him on IR.
That was very quick.
Yeah, so I feel like he could miss more than just that 4-game window. Obviously, Hassan Haskins and Kamani Vidal were, waiver darlings this week. Personally, for me, I threw some bids on just because it's a starting running back, but I feel like this could have the potential of being like the Commanders' backfield all over again, where it's just going to be a 50-50 split between the two. Haskins could obviously get the goal line work, and Vidal getting more in the passing game. I wasn't too enticed by either of them to really unload the clip for fab money, but some people did. You never know. We could be wrong. I mean, I was wrong the week before with Amari DiMercato and Michael Carter. I unloaded the clip for Amari DiMercato. Didn't end up working out that way. Fortunately,
it could have been fine if he wouldn't have dropped the ball at the 1-yard line.
Right. And honestly, low key, I feel like he scored. I feel like
I had similar sentiments. I think the argument is when he started rolling the football, when do you lose possession?
Right. So if they would have called it a touchdown at the beginning, it wasn't conclusive to say it either way. So they probably would have just called it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is what it is. But yeah, Omari Hampton is going to miss. I think he's going to miss significant time. Obviously, he's out for at least the 4. I think that's possible. It's a 5 to 6 week thing. But the Chargers are competitive, so it's not like we're going to miss out on him the rest of the year. I do think that he'll be back at some point. So if you're doing really well and there's a team that owns Hampton, they can't really wait it out. Maybe make some offers. Just maybe wait a couple weeks just because you're going to be without him for a significant amount of time. But
I do think, though, that because it's been so quiet, you have like this kind of false optimism. The moment that you find out, if you think it's more severe than it is, then there's no real benefit to trading him right now because once they say, hey, it's going to be a longer term thing, then that value is just going to plummet. So if you are on the optimistic side of things and saying, hey, it's only going to be the 3 or 4 games, then now is the time, because if they say, hey, it wasn't that serious, then as soon as people find that out, they're not going to let go. But you're kind of in this pit of misery situation. And it's crazy how banged up that that running back room is right now. So I'm just waiting for Najee Harris to come out with an eye patch and a peg leg and try to run their backfield a little bit. But yeah, I don't feel too confident in either one unless you're getting like a large boost to your running backs. I don't see how either one can really be startable unless you're in some real dire situation.
Right. And I mean, their offensive line has been decimated by injury as well. Marion Hampton had to go nuts basically to do what he's been doing because he's been getting hit as soon as he's getting the ball in the backfield. Like, I just don't see Haskins and Vidal, being okay with that. You know what I mean?
That offensive line is decimated too. They're missing both their tackles. It's just that team, as hot as they looked at the start of the season, I mean, it's just falling apart around Justin Herbert. So we'll see how they're able to rally around. You definitely had some people who maybe started Quentin Johnson for the first or second time last week. And of course, he throws up a dud. So that's super awesome. I'm sure people were thrilled about that. But yeah, it's a long season. And I think, especially for me, that's why I rely on kind of like smaller sample sizes of data when I'm looking at matchups, because when you have those kind of things pile up, it can really make a difference if you're looking at that rather than like a year-long average. So
right.
We'll see what else. What else you got injury-wise?
Why don't you just throw Hurnley's comment on the screen real quick just so we can address that?
Yeah.
So I mentioned it might have been a week or two ago that we talked about Pearsall and his injury. I've been concerned about him for quite a bit, honestly, because he was pretty blatant when he was interviewed about his injury that he felt like he didn't feel like his knee was stable. Like, we don't really know what his injury is to his knee, but if he feels like he's running and he doesn't have any support down there, the dude can't be on the field. Like,
right.
That's just like, depending on, no matter what the injury is, just from a mental aspect of that, like if you don't think that you can even cut because you don't know if your leg's going to hold, you can't be on the field. So I'm not surprised by this at all. I do expect him to miss again. This could be a multi-week thing as well. I'm surprised that they haven't placed him on IR, maybe because the injury might not be too bad and it's maybe just all in his head. But like, the dude flat out said that he just doesn't feel like his knee is supporting his body right now, which is just crazy to think about.
Been there. It's not fun.
Yeah. And then Brenton Strange, another guy, he has a quadricep strain, but he was placed on IR immediately as well. So like, that could be a grade 2. I wouldn't say it's a grade 3. That'd probably be season ending, and they probably would have called that out right off the bat. So he's probably dealing with a grade 2 strain. They know that he's going to miss 4 weeks. Might be back right away. Maybe a week or 2 after that. We'll see how he's doing, but he's definitely going to miss 4 games at this point. Kyler has a foot injury. He's considered day-to-day. He was able to come back into the game. Honestly, this was the funniest injury ever, which injuries are never funny, but when he walked to the locker room, I didn't think he had an injury of his foot or ankle or anything. I thought he was concussed because that freaking snap rocketed him in the face. Did you see that?
Right. Yeah. He looked like he got shot.
Yeah, I was legit crying when I saw that play. I watched it so many times over. But he has a foot injury. He's considered day-to-day. Like I said, he was able to come back into the game. I feel good about him playing this week, but if you have Kyler, obviously monitor that each day. And if you don't have a better option out there, hopefully he plays. But I expect him to play. Also, Kyler's kind of been borderline QB1, so you likely have better options out there.
I also don't hate the idea of, at least for Marv and Trey McBride, for Jacoby Brissett getting a game or 2. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously a serviceable backup. He's not anything to be crazy about for us from a fantasy perspective, but
he'll eat it though.
Yeah.
All right, so before we jump into the big headline for the week, just wanted to get back up into the chat here. So we got Nino in the house. What's going on? Third of the season already in the books. Yeah, man, time flies when you're having fun. Question from the legend himself. Any thoughts about what happens with the Vikings backfield when Aaron Jones returns? Is it the same usage as the earlier weeks, or is he going to take over? Drew, I know we talked about this when the injury first happened. Jordan Mason doesn't really provide a lot from a pass catching situation. And if you look at those first couple of weeks, he was already leading the team as far as rushes and attempts. So I don't think that anything changes. Aaron Jones is going to siphon some of those carries away a little bit, but he really is that receiving, more dynamic back in that offense. Jordan Mason probably gets a good chunk of the goal line work. He probably gets a the majority of the carries. It may be a 55-45 split, maybe 60-40. But the tough part with Jordan Mason, because he's so inactive in the pass game, in a PPR format league, it's hard to trust him if you don't have confidence that he's going to get into the end zone. Otherwise, he's going to give you 6-7 points.
Yeah, we discussed this quite a bit. I'm not the biggest Jordan Mason fan because I don't like guys that feel like they're touchdown dependent. Like in a standard league where you don't have any PPR scoring, Jordan Mason's great, but like the dude offers you nothing in the pass game. He has to score a touchdown. But the thing I'm watching, I agree with everything that you're saying in terms of the usage, but like I'm a little concerned that the usage still could fall back a little bit for Mason just because he seems to have had a fumbling issue the last few weeks. I think he has 2 or 3 fumbles. He hasn't lost them all, but he's not holding on to the football. And if that continues, I think Aaron Jones coming back, he could, siphon away some of those touches.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to look at the numbers here.
I know he had one against the Steelers in Dublin. That can
he's had 2 on the season, so at least that have been recovered. But yeah, I mean, like his explosive run rate 5%. He's not really doing a ton, but he's getting all of the inside the 5 carries for that.
Is he kind of like Zach Charbonnet? Like
that's a great comp. That's a great comp, actually. Yeah, I would say very similar to that. I think Sharp, he offers a little bit more in the pass game. He'll get like 2 or 3 targets a game, and then Ken Walker will get like 4 or 5.
Yeah, he's just a all forward guy though.
Yeah, that's a perfect comp. I completely agree. All right, so
I have a couple more injuries though.
Okay.
So one of them was actually Kamara. He popped up on the injury report today. He got hurt in practice with an ankle. We'll have to see what it looks like the next couple of days because he's marked as a limited participant because obviously he practiced for half of it and then he got hurt mid-practice. There could be something to this. If you're a Kamara owner, I would probably check out to see if Kondre Miller is available as a backup option.
Like he's been a pretty popular waiver target though because he actually attempted Kamara last week. And there's all this rumor about trades, and I think people are trying to get ahead of it. It's crazy how different fantasy is even from like 5-6 years ago, where it was like news breaks, then everybody's going and rushing to the wire. Now it's like you got to be 2-3 steps ahead on these folks. So it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, and I think Kamara's going to play. It's just more of a be prepared if he doesn't kind of thing because it's still fresh. He just got hurt today. They're probably going to be like, we need to see how he looks tomorrow if he swells up overnight, et cetera. But definitely be on top of that. We also have 2 more injuries here, and then there's 2 guys I want to bring up that are probably coming back.
Before you transition out of that, since you're talking about Kamara, would you feel comfortable playing him against New England, or would you pivot to Scatterbo again?
So the reason why I started to pivot is because one of my guys answers this question too. Tyrone Tracy's going to play this week. So I still think that Scatterbo is probably the starter. Tyrone Tracy's coming off of a dislocated shoulder, and like he could take one hit and be out of it again. But I do think that that's going to become more of a committee. He's not going to get the 25 carries that he's been getting, and also he's had a pretty low efficiency. Like if he's not getting that many carries, he might not be a good start, especially against that defense. They are a pretty solid defense in terms.
They've actually been pretty porous against the run, though. 28.5 points per game in the last 3 weeks. Denver, Tampa Bay, the Rams. Out of the 2, I'm with you. Scatterbo, I'm shocked that I'm saying this because Kamara was my guy for the season, but that New Orleans offense is just horrid right now. So I don't have a lot of faith in Kamara. It's funny that you say Scatterbo is inefficient. You mean the guy that ran a 4.6, maybe 40, that just focuses on like plowing through people is slow, like crazy.
I know.
And also, before you do any more injuries, I just want to take a moment to talk about how Tyler owned this trade. Like 2 seconds for Bill, and then
the one
back. Yeah,
it's
Tyler.
funny.
Drew sent this to me earlier today, and I've been fuming about it. So props to you. Good trade.
It's a great trade because my pick's gonna be late, and the third day's getting back is probably gonna be like 1 or 2 picks after mine, so it's basically washed.
Yeah.
So it's Bill for a second. So it's good trade.
All right. So what else you got?
Saquon Barkley also popped up on the injury report with a knee. I think he's gonna play, but I do think that it's something worth monitoring. I actually picked up AJ Dillon in a few leagues, more as a handcuff option. I don't think I'm going to use him anytime soon, but the Eagles, we're going to talk about more later on, have just kind of been having that Super Bowl hangover type of thing. They've been having a lot of injuries, a lot of different guys just coming in and out of the lineup on the offensive line. I feel like A.J. Dillon's kind of a handcuff I want to keep if those vibes continue to be negative in that regard. But I do think Saquon will play this week, but it's something to monitor over the next few weeks, whether or not he's dealing with something as well that could pop up and get worse.
Yeah.
And then Darius Slayton's going to be out with a hamstring. And the last thing I wanted to bring up is Christian Watson's window was open from last year where he tore his ACL. So,
into the international house of mid he goes. Can we add any more wide receiver twos to that team?
Exactly. So like it's just going to get more crowded. The only guy I like, and I'll discuss more on that later on, is Tucker Kraft. But it's just the battle of mid in that wide receiver room. It's just going to get more complicated. So I expect him to be back in the next 2-3 weeks as well.
Yeah. Cool beans. All right. So before we jump into headlines, I want to hit a couple of these other questions that we have. So Nina is asking about his wide receiver room. It's pretty brutal. So Jacoby Myers, Stephon Diggs, who's kind of broken out in the last 2 weeks. It's funny. They've said that, that Diggs is going to take him 4 or 5 weeks to ramp up. And it seems like that is very on par with the way that he's performed. So very excited about him moving forward. Alec, that Tennessee offense is just pretty horrid. So Calvin Ridley looked a little bit better last week, so I don't really know what you can do there. But would it be a good time to part ways with Trey McBride, who honestly has been underperforming a little bit? These 2 stud tight ends that we've had, we haven't seen as much info with it. So, Drew, what kind of guys would you be looking at trading if you were going to do a 1-for-1 for Trey McBride?
This is tough for me to answer because I don't think there's any scenario where I would trade Trey McBride. I think that he's going to come around personally. And he's just so much better than most of the tight ends consistently with the amount of volume he gets. But I'm trying to think. You could probably do better. Oh, those are the 3 wide receivers that he has. So he's looking to get a receiver.
Yeah. So some of the options you looked at: Rice, A.J. Brown, Worthy, Sutton, McMillan, Marvin Harrison. I would look a little bit higher. Rashee Rice, but see, if you're hurting, depending on your record, you got another week or 2 that you got to deal with that. I would look at somebody maybe like you get Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I think that's solid.
Cortland Sutton, I don't hate. I think that Trey McBride is still worth more.
I like Tet too.
I don't.
Well, I think it's going to be Tet plus. I just really love his second half schedule. Like I think that he has so much opportunity in the back half. Maybe if you can get Tet plus.
I wonder. Yeah, it's going to be like you definitely want to get a tight end back. I wonder if you were to tier down from McBride to Ferguson, or
is he really a tier down though? Like
well,
it's tier down based on name.
It's the optics of it. It's the optics of it.
Yeah.
And you have to imagine once CD comes back that his targets are going to go down a little bit. Or Tucker Kraft, quiet last game, even though he had a couple chances to score. Like he could have had a big week, but he got stopped at the 1 a couple times.
The second one was a touchdown. That was crap.
Yeah. But it's like stuff like that where it's like it's a tier down and then you get a wide receiver with it. That's what I would look to do. If you're strictly going to go for, let's say you have someone good on your bench, then I would look at like a Devontae Adams. Maybe you could get Egbuka.
Egbuka's blowing my mind right now.
It's crazy.
I own him in redraft, and like I love my team, but I'm just like I don't know how to bench this dude and play like some of these other guys. It's real tough right now. Like you got to keep playing him, but it's just like what the hell's going to happen when all 3 of them are back on that field?
If it ever happens.
I think Evans will be back in 2 weeks, if not sooner.
Yeah.
I think he might play this week from what I was like. He might practice this week, and he has an outside chance of being a game time decision. But
yeah, the way that they're talking about it, though, I don't think it's gonna happen. But we'll see. But yeah, it's gonna get real interesting for sure. But definitely some options there. I would definitely look at tearing down at tight end and then getting an additional piece. And someone who would be like unsexy that's been super useful. Like a Deebo Samuel, Michael Pittman, you paired them with like a solid tight end for McBride, like I'd be all over that. Diggs feels like he's on the come up. You already have him though, so that's not going to do you a whole lot of good. Worthy, I wouldn't want just because when Rice comes back, I think that Rice immediately jumps back into what he was at the start of last season.
Yeah, I know we talked preseason about his ramp up, but the more I think about it, like that receiver room's just been hurting so bad, and the type of play style that Rashee Rice is, and he works in the short to intermediate, I think that it might not be as tough of a bounce back for him as I originally thought. I'm interested in seeing how it plays out, but he could just be a PPR merchant at the beginning with not a lot of yak and see what it looks like. But
yeah, I am. All right, Drew. So let's jump into the big headline for the week. We teased it a little bit at the start of the show. Joey Flack, the Don, interdivisional trade going from the Cleveland Browns to the Cincinnati Bengals. A little pick swap action for the Browns. Still uncommitted whether or not Shedeur Sanders will be the QB2. But we're not here to talk backup QBs that mime instead of answering questions from the media. So, Drew, what do you think that this trade does for the Cincinnati Bengals offense? Do you feel like there's any chance of hope or life that he could be better than Jake Browning?
It's so funny because we just had this conversation like 2 or 3 weeks ago with Carson Wentz and JJ McCarthy. It can't get worse. But in this case, I still feel like it can get worse. And I could be completely wrong on this. We've seen Flacco step up in the last 2 years, like with the Colts. He stepped in, offered some fantasy value.
He was a beast for the Colts. 5 games, 21.8 fantasy points per game. Yeah. He was the one that carried me to the promised land in Scott Fish Bowl in 2023.
It's so wild though, but like the Bengals went from Jake Browning, who's the second most inefficient quarterback of this season, down to the least inefficient quarterback. Did I say that wrong? He went from 31.
No, you're right. You're correct.
They literally they tiered down based on what's been happening so far. I will acknowledge the fact that the weapons that he was dealing with in Cleveland obviously were not the weapons that he's getting in Cincinnati. I feel like it could be one of those situations where we get to learn DPI, buddy. Like it's just going to be throwing up to Jamar Chase and trying to get a bunch of downfield.
Hey man, he won a Super Bowl doing that, so why not go back to it?
Yeah, I don't know. The running game is worse. Judkins obviously was offering a lot more, even with stack boxes. It's worse, and the Browns gave up pressures in 2.67 seconds, which was 15th in the league. Over the past 3 weeks, the Bengals have been at 2.37 seconds, which is the third worst. Like, he's a statue going to an offense that has a worst offensive line. I think overall their PFF grades, people have been talking about how it's been better with Cleveland, but like,
man, hold on. Just don't even.
I know. I'm just saying what people are saying. Like, it doesn't mean I agree. This is what people are saying, but like the rush is getting there much faster. We saw 2 weeks ago, it was the Texans. Was it the Texans? Yeah. You sent me that clip because I wasn't watching the game, and literally they had 4 offensive linemen blocking in the interior, and the 2 edge guys literally just ran right around on a 3-man rush. Like, it was just the ugliest.
Yeah, the interior and the running back covering the nose, and they block the nose 4-on-1 decently well, but then
the 2 edge rushers just went right by him. It was just hilarious. Like that. Like, come on. Like, I could be completely wrong, but like, their issue is that they cannot pass protect their quarterback. That's why Jake Browning looks so bad. Like, he was literally just throwing it up there to Chase. Like, that's why Chase had 3 tackles or 4 tackles the other day. He's just throwing it.
Yeah. Fishbowl legend.
Yeah. It's literally just frickin' Jamar Chase is down there somewhere, and that's why he's been so bad. But like, now Joe Flacco cannot move at all. At least Jake Browning can move a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. We'll see.
I don't think it changes anything for the receivers. I think T. Higgins is cooked like this season. Like,
it could help Chase Brown because Joe Flacco loves to dump it off to the running
Joe
back.
Flacco averages 8 targets per game to running backs, and
Yeah.
Chase Brown's the only one that sees the field. So it's like, this isn't going to help him run any better, but I agree he should be more of a PPR threat just because of the dump offs.
Yeah. If they can figure out a way to just get the ball out early and let Chase run, maybe Chase does better. I don't think it changes anything though. Maybe his floor lifts a tiny bit. Like we were talking the other day, like his floor might be 12, 13 points. Maybe it's 16 points if he can just get
if his floor is 16 points, I love that.
Yeah, I know we talked about that. I think for me, I get it. That's good. But, like, you picked him with the 1-1. Like, if you're going to compete, you need him to be giving you the occasional 25.
Right.
He will.
But realistically, if you picked him at the 1-1, you're trying to get rid of him. And I'm acquiring him as a buy low, and I'm getting 16 out of him a week. That's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think that the seller of Chase can just sell them for 75 cents on the dollar. Like at this point, you might as well just hold and just hope for a miracle. Like you're just giving up at that point to sell him at his current value. Like you just have to hope that. So it sucks if you went that route, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic that things can change just because they were already at the lowest of the low. Like whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's just funny. Like
I'm surprised that they're giving up draft capital, even though it's just a swap.
It's like 40 picks. Yeah. But it's just funny because, like, Kevin Stefanski flat out said today that he was shocked by the trade. And, like, I don't think that meant we're shocked that they traded a captain or a leader in the club, in the locker room. I think it's shocked, like, I can't believe somebody wanted to give us something for him. Like, I honestly feel that way, which is just crazy to think about. But,
yeah. We'll see. I don't know. Weird times. I don't know. The vibes are very interesting in Cleveland. People thought that Flacco was going to be kind of like the best option, but I don't see how Gabriel or Sanders or even what's his face, Bailey Zappe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, can't be any worse than what Flacco was throwing out there right now. But let's transition to Fantasy Football Tinder. If this is your first time watching the show, this is something we do every week just to keep up with current trends. We'll swipe a little right, swipe a little left, just to keep the thumbs hot here. But got 2 different targets. Before we get started, we'll show you an example of kind of how this is going to work. So this is our buddy Zach. The people want to know, can Zach keep the momentum coming out of the bye week? Steelers are early bye week, week 5. Back at home this week against Cleveland. Ball knowers and everybody excited in Pittsburgh right now for that 3-1 record. They're going to swipe right. You'll see what the green hearts on the screen saying, yeah, of course, dude's just going to keep doing what he's doing. He's going to have no sleeves on, making some fall cuisine that everybody's going to love. Rock around the 412 is about to be slapping now that it's October. It's going to be sick. Haters and perpetrators are going to swipe left. You'll see the red X's pop up on the screen if you're watching live. And that's just going to be like the big X. You don't want that. It ain't happening. Trap game. Mike Tomlin, fire him ASAP kind of thing. So first one we're going to talk about, Drew. Coming onto the scene, we have this former rapper kind of turned into tight end. Darren Waller, 100% of America voted yes, Waller is still a certified baller. Drew, what says you?
100% swipe right?
Yeah.
How many votes? Pretty.
There's how many people in America? 300 million.
How do we only have the amount of likes that we have and followers at this point? Damn.
Hey, man, it is what it is. When the people are passionate about something, they show out. They rock the vote.
So you got a super like. People are spending money.
Oh yeah, people got that Tinder premium for Darren Waller.
Anyways, I guess you want to know which way I'm swiping, huh?
That would be helpful for the show to continue.
Yeah, I'm swiping right. I actually thought that this was pretty easy. It's crazy because it's only been 2 weeks, but his snap percentage is increasing each week. He went from 28% to 58%. He's getting a crazy target percentage in the red zone, which is awesome, obviously, for his team. Tyreek Hill was lost 2 weeks ago to that significant knee injury, so there's targets available to go to someone. Obviously, Waddle had that breakout game that we were expecting last week. It started kind of slow, though, but ultimately he did end up getting there. We saw what they did with John O. Smith last year. They're able to manufacture touches to the tight end. We weren't impressed by Malik Washington.
I think what we said last week about him getting manufactured touches was exactly true. Westbrook Akine didn't really do much at all.
So it's funny. He was basically doing cardio out there. He ran a shit ton of routes.
Yeah.
Didn't get any targets. He was just doing cardio. Like, it just sucks. I mean, I still stand by that call because the data was there to suggest that it could happen. Just didn't throw him.
Yeah, I had him ranked in my top 60, and I don't think he was in the top 100. But,
I didn't expect what Kendrick Bourne did though when I called out Westbrook Akine though. Like, he just, with Pearsall out and Jennings out and Kittle, they peppered him with targets, which could happen again for another week. But still, Westbrook Akine, I feel like he's going to have the best shot of the second receiver to really do something.
But I think the second target getter is going to be Waller.
It's going to be Waller, 100%. Yeah. So I think that he's going to raise another maybe 15-20% snap share this week as he starts to get back to it. And that's going to eventually, in such a weak position, like there's so much opportunity for him to be a top 5 to 10 tight end. He's pacing right now to be a top 5 tight end with what he's done in the past 2 weeks, but he's not going to replicate these touchdown numbers. Like, it's kind of insane right now, but I think that the targets and the volume is going to pick up, and that should replace a lot of those touchdowns. But I think he's still going to score quite a bit. They're going to look for him a lot in the red zone. And if he gets 1 or 2 of those targets per week, hopefully it comes down with 1. Obviously, there's going to be weeks where he doesn't. But I just like what I've seen the last 2 weeks, and I expect it to continue.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm also swiping right if you wouldn't have guessed. But like you said, 9 targets on 36 routes for 8 receptions, 105 yards, 3 touchdowns. It's accumulated 24.2% of the passing yards and 60% of the touchdowns since he's been in the lineup. Pretty insane stuff. And like you said, they're still ramping him up. He's only been on the field for 53% of dropbacks so far. They said that first game that they were planning on playing him like 16 snaps. It basically doubled last week, so we'll continue to see that. 2.92 yards per route run. Anything above 2 is elite. Being at 3 is like unconscious. And we know that the Dolphins are absolutely buns on defense. Game script score, 10th best from like a passing perspective from player profile. There's only 2 ways that I see this kind of going wrong. The first one I will never bet on. The second one I do have moderate concern about. The first one is health. We know that Darren Waller has historically not been the most healthy individual in football. He gets banged up quite a bit. He was basically like Evan Ingram before Evan Ingram was a thing. The second one, which is a bigger concern, if Mike McDaniel gets fired, what does that mean for his role now?
Yeah, that's fair because he does a really great job of creating mismatches for tight ends.
Right. So if he gets the boot, which I do think could happen,
I think that he survives the season. But what the weird thing is like, I think that they're doing enough on the field and the players are backing him to survive the season. But he doesn't look like himself, like he wants to survive the season. Like when he goes to the podium, he actually sounds like he wants them to fire him, which is like crazy.
Yeah.
But I think that they're playing to a level that will keep his job. Like they're frisky, you know what I mean? Like they took the Bills till late in the 4th. They were in that game. Obviously they won a couple games since then, right? Like they're 2-3, right? Or they won.
I'm pulling up. I think they are.
No, they're 1-4 because they blew that lead.
They blew that lead, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're competitive in these games though, so it's not like.
I don't know if that's enough with as weak as that division is right now. I mean, they're not even last technically in their division at 1-4.
Yeah. It's when they stop being frisky though, like that's when we should really start to get concerned. And then if we can keep up on that, maybe he becomes a sell high that we just need to be mindful of.
Yeah. And Waller was on the injury report today, funny enough.
I feel like he's just going to be there though.
Yeah. But that's the concern. And kind of transitioning to our next Tinder, a team that would absolutely love to see him get fired. Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, man. I don't know what's going on over there in East Pennsylvania, but it's been a bit of a struggle there. The offense just does not seem in sync whatsoever. America voted. It was actually a 50-50 split whether or not the Eagles are going to be able to find that 2024 form. So, Drew, let's see if we can break this tiebreaker. How are you feeling about the skill positions for the Philadelphia Eagles right now?
Honestly, I'm trying to sit here and go through all of my negative notes about them because like there's a lot of them. I'm swiping left. Let's just break it down by player. We can each just give our takes on each player. Let's start with Jalen Hurts though, because like we could start with the OC, and he might be the reason why.
He sucks. He is a very large part of the problem.
Which is really weird to me because he's been with the team since 2021, and he's been under Steichen. Like he was there through all of their success. You think that
you've never been in a group project where everybody else does the work and you get the credit?
Yeah, but you can at least pay attention to what they're doing and then just replicate it.
No, you just hang out with security dom and you just have the vibes.
Maybe. There's actual rumors as someone who I live an hour out of Philly. There's rumors that he's running the same 10 plays just over and over and over again.
I believe it. It's like Remember the Titans. He's like, like Novocaine, just give it time. It always works.
Yeah, it's crazy. But Hurts is a big part of this issue too. If you break down his stats, I used him Player Profiler too. I love that site. So shout out to those guys. The dude is struggling big time when defenses are playing in zone. Like,
they're really struggling against zone. It's pretty crazy.
Like Denver completely switched to zone in the second half last week, and he crushed them. He went 0 for 9 in the second half.
Zone and simulated pressure is kicking his ass right now.
It's brutal. So like their offense is AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, or man they'll run a go route and he'll just throw it up to him. That's their offense. And when they pass, that's their passing
top
attack.
5 in deep ball attempts this season.
Yeah, that's their passing attack. And teams switch to zone, doesn't work. AJ Brown starts flipping a lid. So AJ Brown.
And when they go to zone, Dallas Goedert becomes the focal point of that offense. 9 targets last week.
Yeah, and he's doing well. But like we can't count on that week to week. He's a guy that's going to be a boom bust tight end. You can get some really nice weeks and you can get some duds. But AJ Brown, he's 31st in the league in expected in EPA, like 31st. He's 21st in the NFL in routes run. Like that's low for a guy that we drafted to be a wide receiver 1. Only 20.
It was supposed to be a bounce back year. If you think about like the narratives going into the season, it was like the Eagles are going to have a harder schedule. They're going to be throwing the ball more. He was efficient with his touches. So then if they're throwing the ball more, he's your number 1 guy, then he's going to be in good shape. They're actually putting up less yards passing this year, even though they're throwing 4 more times a game. And that's with them calling less pass plays overall and Hurts just scrambling out of them.
Yeah, and honestly, that number could be a little skewed with how many pass plays per game because they had 2 games where Denver was like weird. Like the Denver game was like they were trying to force the pass just because the offensive coordinator was scared of AJ Brown. Like all that talk during the week, it was like he was forcing it, trying to force it to him to get him happy. But the numbers skewed because they had to throw a ton against the Rams.
Yeah, and on that note, Tyler's saying, I just need AJ Brown to be better, not even great.
I don't think he's going to get it. I think he's going to have some boom games just to try to keep him happy. But, like, they don't throw the ball enough. He's 44th in the league in red zone targets because when they get down there, they run it. And that's not going to change. It's always been that way since Saquon came in. Like, they get up close and Jalen Hurts is going to push. Like, that's
I think they're bottom 5 in red zone pass attempts.
Yeah. It's that stuff's not going to change. Like, honestly, I feel better about Devontae Smith. Like, he has some metrics that are actually working in his favor. And I feel like maybe – like, I don't think Jalen Hurts is the type to really care if A.J. Brown gets under his skin. Like, he's very laid back and he doesn't listen to stuff like that. But, like, there's probably a part of him that's like Devontae Smith might be frustrated too, but he's keeping it to himself. There was a report here in Philly that they had a private meeting, the 3 of them.
I heard the 3 of them for like 2 hours. Like,
yeah. And Saquon was there too. It's a lot. Like their passing offense, you just can't rely on it. And I feel like we should have known this.
Well, let me say some things real quick. So I'm also swiping left, and I think that yes, I agree with what you're saying about the passing game, but the rushing attack, which was kind of their bread and butter last year, has looked a lot worse.
Yeah, I have some stuff for that too, but I
figured to get all the fun, man.
I'll chime in. I was just gonna say I thought we were gonna go receivers and switch around Saquon, but
but I just wanted to swipe so that there was nothing else to be there.
So if you're running back, and then you can do your thing.
So if you look at like the yards per rush, they're 3.5 yards per rush, which is 29th in the league. They lost Mekhi Becton. Dickerson's less than 100%, and that run game is looking pretty horrid. Last year, EPA per carry was 0.057 on early downs. This season, it's a negative 0.051. So they've basically done a 180 on early down work, and they're only having a positive play rate on early down runs of 38.6%. They were 5.9 yards per carry against light boxes in the early part of 2024. That was the best in the league by far. 2025, this is when I know this is going to hit your jaw's going to hit the floor, Drew. 2025, 3.9 yards per carry against light boxes. That's tied with the Cleveland Browns for second worst in the NFL. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, I get that Saquon's a little bit banged up, but teams are stopping the run. And then they get into these situations and they're like, all right, well, we're just going to play a zone. And then Hurts is not the kind of go through progressions guy. He's a footballer for sure, but he's not the kind of the tactical surgeon back there. So it's a lot of bad things. I do think it's primarily a play calling issue. I also think that losing Becton was huge for them, but I don't see, without them getting a switch up at someone else calling the plays, I don't see how it gets better.
Yeah. I just add a little bit to Saquon. So it's not just Dickerson and Becton either. Like Lane Johnson has a neck injury, a shoulder. Like I think that he had like a stinger, and he's been dealing with that as well. And also Cam Jurgens is dealing with a back injury. I think ultimately those guys will get healthy, and I think Saquon's going to bounce back a little bit in the second half. But it's just really weird because like he's fourth in the league in carries, but he's 23rd in rushing yards. And listen to these guys that have more rushing yards than him. Genty, who's been last 2 weeks, he kind of stepped up.
I wonder if Rico Dowdle has more than him just from last week.
Rico Dowdle's next on my list. That was literally my next one. I was about to tell you your jaw was about to drop.
No, you can't fool me. I'm familiar with your game.
Yeah, Rico Dowdle. Quinshon Judkins, who missed 2 weeks, eased into it. Bill Krosky-Merritt. Here's the killer. Derrick Henry, who's been.
That's got to be all week one, though, right?
All week one. That's what I mean, though. Like,
yeah. So do you think the whole like rule of 270 and Saquon getting too many touches last year and like all this stuff, like, do you think this is because of that, or do you think that it's a bigger schematic problem with the Eagles offense?
I just think it's the injuries up front, because like they have a dominant offensive line, but when they lost their right guard, to your point, and they have 3 of their top tier linemen that have been in and out of the lineup and playing through injuries. It's just, you know, that's hard to overcome. I don't know if those guys will ever get healthy. I want to say that I'm swiping left on the receivers, but I think ultimately Saquon could have been a swipe right by himself, because I think that he'll eventually figure it out. In the short term, I don't feel great about it.
I think he's going to do enough to be in your lineups, but he's not going to return value for what you wanted him to be.
He's RB10, so it could be worse. Like, it's not like what we're seeing with Derrick Henry, who's like RB23 at this point, and he hasn't been inside the top 40 in the past like 4 weeks. Like, it could be worse, but to your point, like, he was drafted 5th overall, and some of these receivers that were drafted after him, like, you passed on Puka for Saquon theoretically in a lot of leagues, you know, like, that sucks.
Yeah.
But like I said, I ultimately think that he figures it out. Sheer volume might just be enough. But.
Sure. Yeah, and if he continues, like, he had that receiving touchdown last week too, so like stuff like that could help him out a little bit.
He only had 8 carries last week though, because they're like trying to force it to those receivers.
This OC is buns.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Buns. Speaking of buns, let's talk about our OnlyFantasy subscriptions for the week. So every week on this show, we provide one name and one name only that we think is going to give you a premier, elite, sexy, bona fide performance. Before we dive into our week 6 picks, Drew, let's take a walk down memory lane and see how we picked last week. Your boy finally got a hit. It was a Christmas miracle. Rico Dowdle was my guy last week. 23 carries, 206 yards, a touchdown, 3 receptions for 28 yards. He was your RB1. I clearly didn't update Cam Scadabo's numbers because he was not QB5 last week. So that's on me.
He was RB19.
Yeah, he was RB2. So not a bad game for Scatabo, but maybe not necessarily what we were hoping for. But let's see where we jump into this week. So, Drew, we got the clean slate, week 6. Let's keep the momentum going. Who you got for me?
Yeah, so tough week, obviously, with Cam Scatterbo. He fumbled. But, I mean, some of what I said last week that I felt good about happened. He got 6 receptions for 45 yards, but need to bounce up back off of that. I think last week you said that you're not the one that does well in this, and it just completely torched me and just put you, like, way up here, big bang. I mean, you could have doubled down on Rico Dowdle this week.
I thought about it, but got to mix it up.
That nice matchup plus revenge game would have been nice, but
the worst part is I forgot to play him in a league last week.
I picked him up right after the show because like usually you tell me you're OnlyFantasy, but last week was one of those where I didn't find out till like 10 minutes before we started recording. I literally added him right after because I had no idea Chuba was even fighting that injury.
Yeah, well, I had him in life. And then I was like, I need to wait until I have an IR spot so that I can move stuff around. And then I just forgot. And then I was sweating last week. Me and Zach, it came down to that last Brian Thomas catch. And I was like, if I would have played.
Did you win?
Rico, I did win.
You win. I don't like that about Sleeper. Like Lamar's probably out this week. And I have to move him back into my roster. And it's just annoying. But yeah, I went with Tucker Kraft this week. Dude's playing 94% of the snaps. He's the one option I feel good about in their passing attack that he's going to give you what you need each week. And obviously, in him being a tight end, which has been such an annoying position to, find guys week over week. Tucker Kraft's kind of been a mainstay in that offense. He leads the Packers in targets, which is kind of wild to think about. It's not by much, but he does lead the Packers in targets. He was banged up in that last game, and he still balled out, honestly. Like, he suffered that knee injury like 3 days before that. He should have had 2 touchdowns. The first one, I do think that it was pretty close. He was probably short, but that second one, the ball definitely hit the pylon. I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird.
Is what it is. But he's number 2 in the NFL in red zone targets with 5. Pretty solid, especially when they've had a bye week. I hope that number's not outdated because I did this on Monday, but maybe it is because of the bye week. But going into their bye week, he was. They're facing the Bengals this week, though. It's pretty straightforward to just say here. Like, they're giving up 22.6 fantasy points per game to tight ends. Sam Laporta diced him up last week, 5 for 92 and a touchdown. I think that that's going to continue, especially with Kraft being Jordan Love's primary option week to week. So I feel good about that. Sam Laporta is not even the guy, and he diced him up last week. So feel good about Jordan Love finding Tucker Kraft a bunch this week.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, to me, even though he's kind of had games where he's missed out on a few opportunities, he, to me, is a top 5 fantasy tight end for the rest of the season. Like you said, he gets the opportunities. He's a yak machine. Like, it's almost like he is taken on like the way that George Kittle plays the game, where he might not necessarily get a lot of targets, but when he does, he's breaking off like these big plays, which seems like every single week. So I'm all for that. Keeping on the tight end train for OnlyFantasy, I opted to go for Jake Tonjes out of San Francisco. Tampa Bay has given up 18.1 points per game in the last 3 weeks to tight end. They are incredible against the run, so you got to expect that San Francisco is going to be throwing the ball. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. We don't expect Ricky Pearsall to play. I'm not really sure if Juwan Jennings is going to go. So based on the fact that I don't think that Brock Purdy's going to play either, he's going to have a good target share. He had 11 targets last week. So I'm expecting one more good hoorah for Jake Tonjes, and then it'll be back to Kittle time the week after that. So let's just enjoy this one last little Tonjes play, and let's just see what we can do with it.
Cool. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, man. All right. So not seeing any more questions in the chat. So let's tell these fine people where they can find us if they have more questions, want to watch more content, do all that stuff. So you can find us at our personal handles at JOEFRK at Drew Hannes. Here for your start, sits, waiver wire, trade questions, but mostly on Sundays, usually just to scream about the Steelers football experience. and to post memes so that I can try to make money for my son. If you're looking for content specifically for the show, you can find us on X at AT412FF Show or on YouTube, Twitch at Around the 412. We're neck deep in rocking around the 412. How many years has it been, Drew? It feels like a million now.
Forever. Zach and Tyler crushing it.
Yeah, so we're absolutely crushing it, raising money for the Salvation Army on behalf of a former friend of the show, Dalton Keene. We've been increasing the number of children that we've been able to kind of like provide like a good holiday experience. I think it was upwards of about 50 last year. So let's see if we can keep that momentum going as we get into kind of like this kind of holiday spirit. So, Drew, any closing thoughts as we lead into week 6?
No, man, I'm just ready to roll. I'm actually going on vacation this week, so there's a potential chance that I miss the Steeler game, which will be my first Steeler game miss in several years. I'm going to try to watch on my phone, but it depends if my service is good in the woods. So
yeah, we're talking about going. It's in Pittsburgh. Sarah has some friends coming in, so we're actually talking about going downtown Cleveland for the game. So you might see me on the news. You might see me in jail. I don't really know what's going to happen, but it should be a good time for sure. We'll see what we can do. But all right, folks, that's going to do it this week for the Around the 412 Fantasy Football Show. We hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, do all of that fancy YouTube stuff so that we can make sure that we're getting this out to all the people that we can. Until next time, I'm Joe Frick. That is Drew Hannes, and we look forward to seeing y'all in week 7. Best of luck in week 6.